For 5 years, I drove my father to every appointment. For 5 years, I managed his medications. For 5 years, I canceled vacations, missed promotions, and rearranged my entire life to care for him. My sister visited twice, maybe 3 times. Yet when the lawyer opened Dad's will, every dollar, every property, and every investment went to her. The room went silent. Everyone looked at me, waiting for tears, anger, or a fight. Instead, I smiled. Then I reached into my purse and handed the lawyer a sealed envelope. That's when my sister's smile disappeared. My name is Emily Parker, and I was 36 years old when I learned that sacrifice doesn't always come with the reward people expect. For 5 years, my life revolved around my father. Everything else came second. His health started declining shortly after his 70th birthday. At first, it was small things. Missed medications, forgotten appointments, difficulty driving. Then came the hospital visits, the specialist consultations, the physical therapy sessions. Before long, caring for him became a full-time responsibility. And somehow, that responsibility became mine. Not because anyone asked, because someone had to do it. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I drove Dad to appointments. Every weekend, I cleaned his house, organized prescriptions, and prepared meals for the following week. When emergencies happened, my phone rang first. Not my sister's, mine. There were days when I left work early because Dad needed help. There were vacations I canceled, promotions I passed up, relationships that quietly faded because I never seemed to have time. I don't regret any of it. Dad was my father. I loved him, but I would be lying if I said it wasn't exhausting. The hardest part wasn't the work. It was watching someone you love slowly become dependent on others. Meanwhile, my younger sister, Sarah, lived nearly 1,000 miles away. According to social media, life was wonderful. Weekend trips, beach vacations, dinner parties, new hobbies. Whenever Dad asked if she was coming to visit, there was always a reason she couldn't. Too busy. Too expensive. Bad timing. Next month. Next season. Next year. The promises kept coming. The visits rarely did. Over 5 years, I could count them on one hand. Each visit lasted only a day or two. Then she was gone again. Dad never complained. At least, not openly. He always defended her. Sarah has her own life. Don't be too hard on her. She's doing the best she can. Maybe he believed that. Maybe he just wanted peace. As the years passed, relatives began noticing who was always there. They saw me driving Dad to appointments. They saw me handling paperwork. They saw me sitting beside his hospital bed. More than once, someone quietly said the same thing. Your father is lucky to have you. I appreciated the words, but I never expected recognition. I certainly never expected payment. Still, if I'm honest, I assumed Dad's will would reflect reality. Not because I felt entitled, because it seemed logical. 5 years of care. 5 years of sacrifice. 5 years of showing up. Then Dad passed away peacefully one autumn morning. I was holding his hand when it happened. The funeral was difficult, but beautiful. Friends shared stories. Neighbors paid their respects. People whose lives Dad had touched came to say goodbye. A week later, our family gathered at a law office for the estate meeting. The atmosphere felt tense. Everyone knew the will would finally be read. Sarah arrived wearing an expensive designer outfit and carrying herself with unusual confidence. At the time, I didn't think much of it. The lawyer opened the file, adjusted his glasses, and began reading. At first, everything sounded routine. Then came the estate distribution. The house. Sarah. The investment accounts. Sarah. The savings. Sarah. Every major asset. Sarah. The room became completely silent. I felt dozens of eyes turn toward me, waiting for a reaction, waiting for outrage. Across the table, Sarah couldn't quite hide her smile. The lawyer finished reading and closed the folder. Nobody spoke. Then I reached into my purse, removed a sealed envelope, and calmly placed it on the table. Before anyone leaves, I said quietly, Dad asked me to share this. The room fell silent as everyone stared at the envelope. Even the lawyer looked surprised. Sarah's smile faded slightly. "What is that?" she asked. I looked at the attorney. "Dad asked me to give this to you after the will was read." The lawyer carefully took the envelope. On the front, written in my father's unmistakable handwriting, were the words, "To be opened only after my will is read." The attorney broke the seal, unfolded the letter, then began reading. "If this letter is being read, then my daughters are sitting together, and Emily is probably wondering why I left everything to Sarah." Every eye in the room turned toward me. The lawyer continued, "First, Emily, I need you to know something. This decision was never a reflection of who loved me more." My throat tightened. "For 5 years, you sacrificed your time, energy, and opportunities to help me. You never asked for recognition. You never demanded rewards. You simply showed up." Across the table, Sarah shifted uncomfortably. The attorney read on. "Sarah, I love you too. But there are truths that need to be acknowledged." The room became even quieter. A person can love their family and still fail to be present when it matters most. Sarah lowered her eyes. The lawyer turned to the next page. Then his expression changed. This time, even he looked surprised. "The estate listed in my will is not the entirety of my assets." A ripple of confusion spread through the room. The attorney adjusted his glasses, then continued. 7 years ago, I established a private trust." My heart skipped. A trust? Nobody had ever mentioned a trust. Not once. The trust contains assets separate from my estate. It includes investment holdings, business interests, and properties that were intentionally excluded from probate. Sarah's head snapped up. The lawyer continued reading. "The trustee and sole controlling beneficiary is Emily Parker." The room exploded with whispers. Sarah looked stunned. My aunt gasped. Even I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The attorney opened another folder that had apparently been attached to the letter. Several official documents appeared inside. Signed. Notarized. Legally binding. Everything was real. "I chose this structure carefully," the letter continued. "The inheritance in the will provides financial resources. The trust requires judgment, responsibility, and long-term stewardship." I felt tears forming. Not because of the money, because suddenly everything made sense. Dad had noticed. Every appointment, every late-night phone call, every sacrifice I thought had gone unseen. He had noticed all of it. The attorney continued reading the final page. "Emily spent 5 years proving she could be trusted with responsibility. Trust is more valuable than wealth." Nobody interrupted. Nobody argued. Nobody even moved. "Sarah, I hope this does not create division. My wish is that both of my daughters understand that love and trust are not measured the same way." The letter ended there. Silence filled the room. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then Sarah finally looked at me. There was no anger in her expression, only shock, and perhaps a little regret. I could have celebrated. I could have made a speech. I could have reminded everyone who had been there during those 5 difficult years. Instead, I simply folded the letter. Because that wasn't the point. The point wasn't proving anyone wrong. The point was understanding something my father had spent years trying to teach. Money can be inherited. Trust must be earned. My sister received an inheritance that made her wealthy. The trust my father placed in me made me grateful. And in the end, that mattered far more.